So chapter 13 deals with three things, one of which you guys should all know about from your annual reports, and it's ratios. So we don't do a lot with ratios in here because we've already done all the ratios. But on Wednesday, you will find out the 5 ratios that you need to know for the final. I've told you the whole semester you do not need to memorize all the ratios. There will only be 5. Right? So those 5 ratios you will be able to put on your study sheet, right? And then you won't have any reason for not knowing the formula, but you're also going to know what they mean, correct? That way you can analyze them as well. So with the other 2 things we're going to talk about here is horizontal and vertical analysis. This is how companies look at each other and look at themselves. And this is one of the things that year after year, and one of the things on your stock market, I'm going to pick on Elena because she emailed me and just said when she was looking at whether or not she would invest in them, this is what companies look at from themselves. And also, how are we doing? The college does this all the time. How is the college doing? And I'll be honest with you guys, right now we're down like 14% from last spring to this spring. We always compare semester spring to semester spring. We don't compare fall to spring because they're drastically different. Why is our fall different than our spring? And they're drastically different. Why would fall enrollment be different than spring? Why?
Are there more students in the fall?
There's more students in the fall. Why?
Just school, like, summer's over, yeah.
Summer's over.
People want to go to school.
People want to go to school. What happens in the spring in the high schools? People do what? Graduate. What happens when you graduate?
You don't want to do any school.
No, that's the opposite of that. When you graduate from high school, what do you do in the fall? You go to college. And then if it doesn't work out, you stop in the spring, right? And then what do you do in the fall? Try again, okay? Or you go away to a 4-year, the first year, and what do you do in the spring? Might not work out, so in the fall you come home, okay? And you try the community college. There's a whole bunch of different reasons. But there are a lot of people, if it doesn't work out, or if you're a non-traditional student, you take a class in the fall, it's hard, you don't do it in the spring, you take the summer off, you try it again in the fall. There's a lot of different reasons, but fall enrollment for all colleges and universities is higher than the spring enrollment. It's just the way it is. So ratios are helped to use to compare things. So for example, companies might use their gross profit from one year to the next. How are we doing from this year to last year? Do you want gross profit to go up? Absolutely. And we've looked at that. We looked at Walmart's, we've looked at Pepsi's, we looked at National Beverage, right? We looked at their gross profits. It's very important for gross profit. The college, it's very important for ours to go up. But ours isn't profit because we're a non-for-profit. Ours is enrollment. We still need the number of people coming here to go up. One of our other problems we can't change is the number of 18-year-olds is going down. We can't change that, can we? Okay, so what we have to do is find another form of non-traditional students. The other thing that's changing is there's something like 22 different colleges and universities in the St. Louis area. That's a lot of competition in one area. Now, we're by far the cheapest, but does that necessarily matter for people? No. All right? You got to offer the right classes at the right time. You would think that would be the number one reason. But when the economy is doing well, people don't think about how much money they're spending on education. It's not smart. And if my son didn't have a scholarship to run, he would be sitting right here. Well, he wouldn't be sitting with you because he's not going into accounting or business, but he would be here. But he got a scholarship, so he didn't have to. That was part of the deal. Because college debt is at an all-time high. And you guys are very smart for being here. All right, vertical analysis is internal, all right, from a standpoint there. You're looking at how are you doing from within your financial statements. What I mean by what percent, gross profit is what percent of sales. Remember when we talked about gross profit? That's the most money you can make. Because you have to go buy those goods. So if Home Depot, which that was our annual report, is buying all their goods, the most they can make is 25%. Okay, that's great. Actually, that was really good because Home Depot's was not that high, was it? And a lot of people got the gross profit percentage wrong for Home Depot. But as long as you analyzed it right, and said whether or not you thought it was good. And I had a lot of varying opinions on gross profit for Home Depot. Some people thought it was way too low. And that was your opinion, so you didn't get it wrong. Sometimes I put a little comment in there that said, you might look at the hardware industry, this isn't necessarily a bad gross profit, but if you want one higher, then that's okay, right? Everybody's opinion is their opinion, and that's why everybody invests in different types of stock. All right, and then we have ratios, which we're going to talk about all the different ratios. I will not spend time in class talking about the actual ratios themselves. All right, you guys already did that. So let's look at horizontal analysis first. Horizontal analysis talks about trends over time. When I was at Reuben Brown, this was nonstop. All right, when we were looking at audits, when we were looking at internal audits, it was constantly how are things progressing over time. Hang on. I'm either losing my voice or I don't know. So we want to look at a year-to-year percentage change. I can tell you guys the one way you're going to look at this is when you get your salary increases. The first job I ever had was with AT&T, now called AT&T. They didn't give you a dollar amount. They just said you got a 3% increase. Well, you kind of want another dollar amount too, right? So you'd have to go figure it out. Other companies will come to you and say, when you sit down, they'll say you're getting a $3,000 increase. But then you're like, you talk to friends who say they got a 5% increase, you're like, well, what did I get? So you got to turn around and you got to calculate it. So this is how you calculate it. You're going to take the change in this year to year divided by what's called your base year, which is your prior year. All right? Current year minus prior year divided by prior year. So you can take this, if you want to put it to something of use now, you take your current year salary minus your prior year salary and divide it by your prior year, and that's your percentage increase. So if you had to guess what the normal raise is, what do you think it is? Normal company, normal raise. Yeah. It's 2 to 3% depending on cost of living. Cost of living, COL. You'll hear that a lot going into business because that is what most companies strive to give, a minimum raise, which unfortunately for a little bit, that's been the typical raise is cost of living, especially the bigger the company. The bigger the company. Now bonuses get done on top of that because bonuses are one at a time, right? They don't have to keep giving them. But once you give a raise, you always have that added on your salary. The nice thing about public accounting, remember I've talked to you guys about public accounting, just because you're going to accounting, the reason that it launches your career, because there was a couple of you guys that were contemplating accounting. The reason public accounting launches your career is because you don't have to go just into accounting. You know, I have a friend who's now the CEO, I believe it's CEO, I just saw her thing, of Planet Hollywood, but it actually in Vegas. But she was with Reuben Brown with me and became a partner at Reuben Brown. She was a manager when I got hired of internal audit. She became a partner, and she went out to Vegas. Planet Hollywood had another name in front of it, so they got bought out by somebody. And she's the CEO. So she's not accounting anymore. I mean, she's worked her way up. But with public accounting, their raises typically go somewhere between 10 and 15% every year. So you start at sometimes the same or higher salary than all your friends when you graduate, but they're getting 3% raises at AT&T and Boeing and AE, and you're getting 10 to 15% raises. And then they're still doing this at the companies, and you're at Reuben Brown or you're at KPMG or Pricewaterhouse, you're doing this, and then when you leave them, if you decide not to kind of stay in the public realm, you go like this into one of those companies. And you go at the pay you're now making. So those 3 to 4 years you stay in public accounting, you're getting 10 to 15% raises, your pay now is there when you go to this other company. That's why you're launching your career. So it's just something to think about. So let's look at an example of horizontal analysis. This is Lowe's. So we switched from Home Depot to Lowe's. So think about some of those ratios. Most of you guys were kind of on target. So this is in the millions. I'm going to kind of just put them all up there instead of going one at a time. The revenue went from year 16 to 17 went up 10%. Their cost of sales went up 10%, but their profit, gross profit, went up around 9. So even though they only had this 0.4% difference in cost of sales, their gross profit only had an increase of 0.9, or I'm sorry, 9%. And then look though, overall of their net income. Net income went up 21%. So sales went up 10, profit went up only 9, but somehow net income went up 21%. Where do you attribute that to? Look at those numbers. Where's the two biggest spikes? Look at the two biggest increases. Interest and income tax. Interest expense went up, so did income tax, so net income went up because both those expenses did what? They help increase income, net income, because they decrease, right? So that was a positive. So you kind of got to watch your ratios too, though. All right, so now let's look at vertical. All right, vertical analysis usually is on the income statement or balance sheet. Income statement is usually going to use sales. Balance sheet's going to use total assets. But they're going to compare everything compared to one number. So you're going to look at all the items on the income statement compared to sales. Or you're going to look at all the items on the balance sheet compared to assets. What percentage of them are assets? What percentage of your income statement are percentage of sales? So if you look, gross profit is 65%. Cost of sales are 65% of sales, which we kind of already knew because we knew that gross profit was 34%. It also tells us that our operating expenses are 26%, which brings us down to this important number right here. Net income is 4.3%. The most money that we're going to make after all this is about 4.3%. We already know the most we can make, gross profit, is 34. But then you take out our other operating expenses, 26. We have interest and income tax. Our net income is 4.3%. Does anybody remember when we kind of got down to some of the numbers at Home Depot, how low it was? It was about 3 something. So it sounds like the home industry might be a little low. But do you think that operating expenses at 26% probably is about normal? So we've seen that Sears is going bankrupt again. Okay, they're closing their final couple stores in the area. One of them is by me. It's actually closed already. So do we think that Home Depot and Lowe's are both going to make it? I don't know. I don't see them leaving. They always seem busy. I like my Ace Hardware, but I got to tell you, they don't always have what I need. I don't order online for my Home Depot and Lowe's supplies like I do for other stuff. I'm not sure the mall's going to make it, but I use my Home Depot. Because when you need from Home Depot, are you going to order it online or do you go to Home Depot? You guys don't own a house yet, but think of your parents. You go to Home Depot. You don't want to wait. Even Amazon Prime takes 2 days, right? When you want something from Home Depot, you want it. You need it. You're usually not waiting, right? I think they're a different store. I think we might, I'm very sad to think that we'd lose our malls. I could see we might go down to maybe a mall. Like maybe West County survives, but Chesterfield and South County might go. One big wall. I could see that. Or the other thing I could see is we have more things like Old Navy. You know how Old Navy's in a strip mall? Maybe our Macy's and some of those, I don't either, but I could see where maybe there'll be more like that.
Isn't that what we're doing?
Well, West County isn't like that. I could see more of that. I like West County. So I'm not really sure, but I could see where this hopefully sticks around. So I'm going to stop with this because I want to talk about your study guide, and we'll talk about this at the beginning of class and then review. So let me